The most profound truth in Buddhism might also be the most difficult to grasp. Everything you seek already exists within you. When Nichiren wrote, "Never seek this Gohonzan outside yourself," the Gohonzan exists only within the mortal flesh of us ordinary people who embrace the Lotus Sutra and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. He was revealing something that challenges our deepest assumptions about spiritual practice. We spend so much time looking outward for answers, for salvation, for happiness, that we forget the source of all these things lies within our very being. Think about how we naturally respond to the world around us. You walk outside on a spring morning and see cherry blossoms in full bloom. Something inside you responds with joy, with appreciation for beauty. You didn't create that beauty outside yourself, but the capacity to recognize it, to feel moved by it, comes from within. The same is true when you hear a piece of music that touches your heart, or watch a sunset that fills you with peace. The external world provides the trigger, but your response comes from your inner life condition. This same principle applies to our Buddha nature. The Lotus Sutra teaches that all beings possess the Buddha nature inherently. It's not something we must earn or acquire from somewhere else. As the sutra states, the Buddha seeds are found in the hearts of all living beings. Yet despite this fundamental teaching, we often find ourselves struggling to access this inner wisdom and strength. We feel ordinary, limited, caught up in daily problems and worries that seem to have nothing to do with enlightenment. The challenge isn't that we lack Buddha nature, but that we don't know how to bring it forth. Nichiren understood this human dilemma perfectly. He recognized that we are mere mortals, precisely because we struggle to manifest the profound life force that exists within us. Our Buddha nature is like a beautiful song that we carry inside but don't know how to sing. It's like having a powerful light within us but not knowing how to turn it on. This is where the practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo becomes so crucial. Nichiren taught that your voice brings out Buddhahood. Through vocalization, through the physical act of chanting, we create a bridge between our ordinary consciousness and our deepest spiritual potential. The sound itself becomes a key that unlocks what was always there, waiting to be expressed. Consider how sound affects us in daily life. A mother's lullaby soothes a crying child. An alarm clock jolts us from sleep. A friend's laugh makes us smile. Our voices and the sounds we make have power to change our internal state and the states of those around us. When we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we're using this same principle, but directing it toward our highest potential. The Lotus Sutra describes how the Buddha's teaching penetrates all levels of existence. The reign of the Dharma fills all, and each being receives what it needs. When we chant, we're not trying to become something different from what we are. Instead, we're allowing what we already are to emerge fully. It's like a flower that contains the seed, the stem, the leaves, and the blossom all within its potential, but needs the right conditions to bloom. Many people struggle with this concept because it seems too simple. How can merely chanting words have such profound effects? But think about how language works in our daily lives. Words have tremendous power. They can hurt or heal, inspire or discourage, create love or hatred. The words we speak to ourselves throughout the day shape our reality more than we might realize. If negative self-talk can drag us down, imagine what happens when we consistently voice our highest spiritual potential. Nichiren wrote about this transformative power. Even a bad person will be saved by the Lotus Sutra. How much more a good person? This doesn't mean that chanting is magic that will instantly solve all problems. Rather, it means that the practice awakens something within us that is stronger than our current limitations, wiser than our current understanding, and more compassionate than our current capacity. When life hits us hard, our responses often feel automatic. Someone betrays our trust, and anger erupts. Financial problems arise, and worry consumes us. Health issues appear, and fear takes over. These reactions feel natural because they come from the parts of ourselves that feel vulnerable and separate from the larger forces of life. But they're not the whole story of who we are. The Gohanzon within us represents our capacity to respond differently, not by suppressing these natural human emotions, but by accessing a deeper source of strength and wisdom. As the Lotus Sutra teaches, all the various sufferings are forever ended. This doesn't mean life becomes easy, but that our relationship to difficulty changes fundamentally. Think about the difference between being caught in a rainstorm without an umbrella versus having proper gear and shelter. The rain is the same, but your experience is completely different. When we access the Gohanzon within through chanting, we're not changing external circumstances directly. We're changing our inner resources for dealing with those circumstances. Nichiren often used analogies from nature to explain these profound concepts. Just as a seed contains the potential for a mighty tree, our ordinary lives contain the potential for extraordinary wisdom and strength. Just as fire exists within flint, but must be struck to appear, our Buddha nature exists within us, but must be activated through practice. The act of chanting creates what Buddhism calls the fusion of reality and wisdom. Reality is our actual life situation, with all its challenges and limitations. Wisdom is our Buddha nature, our deepest understanding and strength. When these two come together through practice, transformation becomes possible. This transformation often happens gradually. You might not notice dramatic changes after a single period of chanting, just as you might not see a tree grow if you watch it for just one day. But over time, something shifts. Problems that once seemed insurmountable become manageable. Relationships that were difficult begin to improve. Opportunities that were invisible start to appear. Most importantly, your sense of who you are begins to expand. The Gosho teaches that the voice does the Buddha's work. Every time you chant, you're performing the same activity that Buddhas throughout time have engaged in, expressing the fundamental rhythm of life itself. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo represents the mystic law that governs all existence. When we chant these words, we're aligning our individual lives with the deeper patterns that create harmony and growth throughout the universe. This doesn't require perfect faith or complete understanding. Nichiren taught that even those with little faith can benefit from this practice. The Lotus Sutra states, even if people have distracted minds, if they enter the pagoda or temple and chant but once homage to the Buddha, they have all achieved the Buddha way. The key is consistent engagement, not perfect execution. Many people worry that their chanting isn't good enough, that their minds wander, that they don't feel sufficiently devoted. But the Gohanzon within doesn't judge the quality of our practice. It responds to our sincere effort, however imperfect. Like a parent who cherishes a child's attempts to walk, even when they stumble, our Buddha nature embraces our authentic efforts to grow. The connection between voice and inner transformation has deep roots in Buddhist teaching. Shakyamuni Buddha himself taught through speaking. His first sermon at Deer Park was delivered aloud to his first disciples. The tradition of oral teaching, of Dharma transmission through sound and voice, recognizes something essential about how spiritual understanding develops. When we chant, we're participating in this ancient tradition, but also doing something completely personal and immediate. We're not reciting someone else's words. We're expressing our own Buddha nature. The sound comes from within us, carries our unique life force, and returns to us transformed by the act of expression. This is why Nichiren emphasized that the Gohanzon exists within the mortal flesh of us ordinary people. It's not a distant ideal or abstract concept. It's as real and present as your heartbeat, your breath, your voice. Every time you speak these sacred words, you're making contact with the deepest truth about yourself. The practice also connects us to something larger than our individual concerns. When we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we're expressing the same law that governs the movement of planets, the changing of seasons, and the growth of all living things. We're participating consciously in the fundamental creative force of existence itself. This perspective can transform how we view our daily challenges. Instead of seeing ourselves as isolated individuals struggling against overwhelming forces, we begin to understand ourselves as expressions of life's infinite creativity. Our problems become opportunities for this creativity to express itself. Our limitations become the raw material for growth and transformation. The Lotus Sutra describes this shift in consciousness. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse. The wisdom of the Buddhas is infinitely profound and immeasurable. This wisdom gate is difficult to understand and difficult to enter. Yet through the practice of chanting, this wisdom gate opens naturally. You don't need to understand everything about Buddhism to benefit from this practice. You don't need to be a scholar of ancient texts or a master of meditation techniques. You simply need to be willing to give voice to your deepest potential, to call forth what already exists within you. This calling forth happens through the mysterious process of sound, creating reality. Scientists now understand that sound waves have real physical effects, that vibration can literally reshape matter. When we chant, we're working with this same principle on the deepest levels of our being. We're using sound to reshape our inner landscape, to call forth qualities that may have been dormant or hidden. The effects ripple outward from this inner transformation. As our life condition changes, our actions change. As our actions change, our circumstances begin to shift. As our circumstances shift, new possibilities emerge. This isn't magic, but it might as well be, given how profound the changes can become over time. Nichiren wrote, "When the skies are clear, the ground is illuminated." Similarly, when one knows the Lotus Sutra, one understands the meaning of all worldly affairs. Through chanting, we develop this clarity of understanding. Problems that once seemed random and meaningless begin to make sense as part of our spiritual development. Challenges that once felt overwhelming become opportunities to strengthen our practice and deepen our wisdom. The key is consistency in faith, not perfection. Every person who has ever transformed their life through this practice started exactly where you are now. As an ordinary person facing ordinary problems, perhaps not even fully believing that change was possible, but they began to chant, and through chanting, they discovered the extraordinary potential that existed within their ordinary lives. The Gohonzon within you is patient. It has been waiting your entire life for you to recognize it, to give it voice, to let it express itself through your words and actions. It doesn't disappear when you make mistakes or forget to practice. It simply waits, ready to respond whenever you turn toward it, with sincerity and determination. This understanding can transform your entire relationship with spiritual practice. Instead of trying to become something you're not, you're simply learning to express what you've always been. Instead of reaching for something distant and unattainable, you're touching something as close as your own voice. Instead of competing with others or comparing your progress, you're engaged in the deeply personal work of calling forth your own unique expression of universal wisdom. The journey of manifesting the Gohonzon within is ultimately about coming home to yourself, but a self far grander and more capable than you might have imagined. It's about discovering that the very qualities you've been seeking everywhere else, the peace, strength, wisdom, and compassion you've been longing for, are already present within you, waiting to be awakened by the sound of your own voice expressing the deepest truth of existence. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.